Hey y'all. Throwback Thursday hits different when you realize the wildest thing about your childhood, it wasn't the chaos. It was that you survived it with your voice still intact. And today, before we get into anything else, I just want to remind somebody out there strength doesn't mean you never get knocked down. Okay. It means you don't stay there. So if you walked in today feeling like life took a cheap shot, pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Let's begin. Hey, welcome back to Ask a Bee, Throwback Thursday. Tales from a wild childhood. That would be mine, probably. Where we don't just tell stories, we unpack the survival manual that made us all the hell we are. And if you grew up anything like I did, you already know. A wild childhood isn't about running barefoot, climbing trees, or sneaking out at night. I did a lot of that too. A wild childhood is every moment you realize that adults weren't always the adults, and somehow you had to raise yourself just a little bit. When you grow up in a childhood that was less storybook and more plot twist, you develop something most people will never understand. It's like a sixth sense, okay? No, I don't see dead people. It's a radar, a whole internal system that just it alerts you when someone's tone shifts by half a syllable. You learn early how to spot manipulation and control and little power plays that other folks don't notice until it's too late. And that's the gift, the blessing in the chaos, because those childhood instincts, they don't retire just because you did. Now, wild childhoods, they teach you things no classroom could ever teach you. You learn to read silence quicker than words. It's true. Let's see who we have. Oh, we have a problem. Okay, don't do that one then. I don't care. Wild, uh, you know, pardon me, I'm still in Texas and it's dry, nasty weather. You learn that the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest person. Sometimes they're just the most afraid. And you learn that if nobody else is going to protect you, you damn sure better learn to stand your ground. And the thing is, once you learn that young, you don't unlearn it. And you're not that young anymore. You grow up into a woman or a man who can smell control coming from miles away before it even knocks. Okay. And I want to talk about that today, not in a sad way, not in a victim way, but in a hell yes, that shaped me kind of way. Because people love to talk about healing like it's some sort of gentle process. Give me a break. We all know that's not true. Okay. There's nothing gentle about healing. But let me tell you something else. Healing from a wild childhood is not soft. It's loud, it's gritty, it's confrontational. Okay. It is every part of you waking up to the fact that you survived things that would have broken other people in half. And healing is remembering that you didn't come this far just to start folding again for someone else's comfort. That's not happening. Honey, stand up. Mm-mm. We stand up for ourselves. People assume a wild childhood means you grew up rebellious. No. It means you grew up observant. You learned how energy shifts. You learned how people rewrite their own stories. And you learned that sometimes the very people who depended on you the most were the ones who pretended they never needed you at all. And baby, when you carry that into adulthood, when you build something of your own with these hands, these two right here, when you finally find your voice and you use it for good, suddenly people forget the childhood that trained you, and they want to step in like, it's their one, they're the ones holding the compass in your life. No. Here's Throwback Thursday gets real, okay? When you've survived that kind of childhood, you're not intimidated by grown folks who try to run you. Not at all. You survived louder storms. You survived crazier characters you survived full-grown adults who couldn't change their own chaos, but expected you to keep the house standing anyway. So when someone tries to guide your show, your vision, your decisions, as if you didn't build this with your own blood and backbones, it hits a nerve, a deep one, right? The childhood nerve, that one that remembers exactly what it feels like to be controlled and exactly what it feels like to break free. And that's why today we're telling these tales, not for pity, not for power, okay? Because the wild child we were is the woman who can't be controlled today, basically. That's what I want women to feel, okay? That's my empowerment movement here. The wild child who watched adults flip stories and shift blame and hand out guilt like candy grew into this person who now says, not today, not again, and not ever. Okay. The wild child who had to grow up quick is the woman who knows the difference between partnership and puppeteering. You grew wise before your time, and that wisdom is what saves you now. So if you've ever walked into a situation, a relationship, a job, a project, collaboration, whatever you want to call it, you guys, suddenly felt that old childhood sensation of someone else trying to steer your wheel, congratulations. Your radar is working. Okay. You're not being dramatic. You're recognizing a pattern, and Throwback Thursday is here to remind you that patterns are meant to be broken, not repeated. Okay. Y'all get with me here. So today's show, it's not about looking backwards. Okay. It's about honoring the girl who survived enough wild for 3 lifetimes so the woman she became never has to shrink again. Today, we're going to unpack these memories, laugh at the absurdity of them, okay? Call out the truth in them, and reclaim the part of ourselves that refuses to be handled, managed, instructed, redirected, or erased, okay? Because, come on, y'all, we know we got a lot of erasure going on. I mean, cancellation, let's put it that way. Because maybe a wild childhood doesn't make you weak, okay? If anything, it makes you stronger. It makes you impossible to control. Grab your seat, grab your coffee, and grab your strength, because today we're honoring the girl who learned early how to survive fire and the woman who learned how to stop letting people play with matches. Now, this is our little throwback story. I do have another one of my own, amazingly enough. And I need to tell y'all that we are now on Twitch and Facebook through my stream too, my Twitch and my Facebook, because you know what? I can. That's why. And my Facebook is mostly my family. So don't read anything into this. Okay. I'm just going to put that out there. If you do, well, you might be part of the problem. I love you anyway. So here, before I dive into today's Throwback Thursday story, I want to take a minute too and set the stage for these tales matter, okay? Because when you share a story from a wild childhood, people think it's just entertainment. They think it's nostalgia, comedy, maybe even chaos. And yeah, it is. I know mine is. Or some dramatic little, I don't know, detour. But the truth, these stories are the blueprint of who we became. Every moment, every misstep, every loud room, every slammed door, every time we had to grow up too fast. All of it shaped the version of us here today. And I don't care how old you are right now, how grown you feel, okay? How many jobs you've worked or much healing you've already done. There are still pieces of that childhood inside you that rise up at the perfect moment and bite you in the butt. Some people call it trauma response. I call it early training. It's all programming. It is. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying my parents were bad because I don't think that's true. I think they programmed with the software that they were programmed with. That's all. You know, I call it the instincts that kept us alive when nobody else was paying attention. Okay. Now, think about it. The childhood who learned to read chaos can now run a room without saying a word. The child who learned silence as survival now uses her voice as a calling. The child who learned how to navigate unpredictable adults became the woman who can spot manipulation 10 miles away. That's not dysfunction. Okay, that's evolution. That's the gift inside it. Okay, and you can call it God's gift if you like. That's what you've been given. That's what you use. So today's story isn't just a memory. Okay, it's a mirror. It's a doorway back to the moment when you realized, okay, the adults are improvising here. I better figure out my own part. And I want you to sit with that as I tell this story. Don't just hear the details. Feel the truth behind them, okay? Feel the girl inside you or your wife, I guess, who had to be braver and smarter and quicker and more observant than she ever should have been, all right? Because Throwback Thursday isn't about going backwards. It's about honoring the journey that brought you forward and the wild child you once were. And yes, I was. I was probably wilder as an adult, but I was. This is about honoring the journey that's bringing me forward. And the wild child that I once was, no, she didn't survive. She didn't just survive. She built the woman hosting the show today. So let me take you back for a minute. Not to traumatize, not to glorify, okay? I'm not looking for pity. But this is a testimony to strength that I didn't even know I had, okay? Y'all settle in. Let's get into this tale. Now, yeah. Bear with me, because I got to go through this. And I'm not changing characters, but let me tell you something. I love my family no matter what. No matter what. All right. Let me take you back to a particular chapter of my childhood. One that, it explains exactly why grown folks can't run me today. Okay. See, when I say I grew up wild, I didn't mean rebellious. Okay. I mean, the whole environment was a total circus tent. And half the adults had no business being in charge of the popcorn stand, okay? Let alone children. Picture this. I may be 10 years old, already with the attitude of a middle manager and the instincts of a detective. We lived in one of those places where the walls had ears and the floors had opinions, and, the adults had moods that could flip faster than a pancake on Saturday fundraiser. You never knew what version of the day you were going to get. So waking up was a gamble. You either got peace or you got the plot twist. This particular morning, the sun wasn't even up yet. And I could tell from the way the wind was, coming through that window that something was kind of off, right? You know how as a kid from a wild childhood, you don't need words. The air tells you everything you need to know. The air told me, girl, brace yourself. So I got up slow, crept out of my room, and sure enough, the living room was already on level 10. Now, in most households, the adults argue about normal things, bills, chores, who turn is it to cook? Not mine. Oh no, my childhood was built different. This particular day, the adults, they were all in full-blown shouting matches, okay, over a toaster. Yes, I said it, a toaster, y'all. Not a relationship, not money, not anything worthy of a documentary, okay? A toaster. One person says, it burned the bread on purpose. The other said it didn't. And they both, oh my gosh. And there I stood in the hallway thinking, y'all are going to fight over an appliance that has one job. Just one. And this is why I learned early to be the peacemaker, the observer, the one who thought 3 steps ahead. Because when people who are supposed to guide you are too busy battling small appliances, somebody's got to be the grown-up, right? So I stepped in between them, all of my, 60 pounds and 4 feet nothing, and said, you want me to unplug it, fix it, or throw it in the yard? Because when you're a child raised in chaos, you learn the universal truth. If you don't take control, somebody else's nonsense will. I know my family's sitting here thinking, yep, that sounds about right. Well, they both stopped. They both looked at me. And suddenly I realized something. I had more common sense at 10 than 2 adults combined. Y'all, that was the moment I knew I could never depend on other people to lead me. I had to become my own leader at 10. I had to trust my instincts at 10. I had to guide myself. And that's why today, the minute I feel someone trying to steer my wheel, my childhood jumps up like, oh, absolutely not. Nope, not happening. And it does that. It does. And on the silliest things, it's almost like a PTSD. But you know what? I'm pretty strong today, so I'm still thankful. But listen, the story doesn't really end there either. After all the toaster chaos, after the screaming and the smoke and the nonsense, guess who had to make breakfast? Yep. Because in a wild childhood, the child becomes the emotional janitor, the fixer, the diffuser, the one who sweeps up the mess and keeps the day moving. So I'm standing there toasting bread over the stove with the fork like some kind of frontier pioneer. I mean, you guys know I love my little house on the prairie, but come on. Thinking to myself, these people shouldn't be in charge of a houseplant, much less a child. And right then and there, I made a silent promise to myself and to, well, the world, I guess, a little oath to me that I've carried ever since. I said, when I grow up, nobody's going to control my peace. Nobody is going to control my foundation, and no one is going to make me doubt what I know. And nobody runs me, right? Now, that moment was my awakening. 10 years old, holding a piece of bread over a gas flame, realizing I had to be my own adult long before adulthood arrived. And that's why I walk the way I walk today, why I talk the way I talk, why I protect what I build, and why I don't just let anyone into my creative world, and why I don't hand the steering wheel over to folks who don't even know which direction they're driving, because it's my direction. I know I'm frustrated a little bit, and it's not because of anything. It's just this topic, because I understand people go through some crap as a child, and let me tell you this again too. I have a good family and I love them very much, and they gave me everything that they knew to give me. That's it. Okay? That is it. So, okay, when I'm telling you these things, understand they're not just funny childhood memories. They're origin stories. They're the moments that shaped my fire in my voice. the boundaries in my heart and, the strength in my backbone. They're the reason that when someone tries to redirect my path, my spirit rises up like, baby, I've been running my own life since before your taxes were filed. Okay? No. And that is today's throwback. A story about a toaster, a hallway, a little girl who realized the grown-ups weren't always grown. And that's okay too. That's okay. You did your best, and I am thankful. Period. But a story about a toaster. Yeah, that's what I've got today. No, what I have today, this explains exactly why today and any other day and every day in the past, I have refused to shrink or fold or submit to anybody's idea of who I should be. Because I didn't survive that just to become controllable now, right? That's why we're here. We're here to use our voices to speak our own truths, right? Now, after a childhood like that toaster saga, you would think I'd seen, every form of ridiculousness a human could produce. You'd think I'd be immune to nonsense by now, but let me tell you, adulthood came with its own cast of characters. And every day, someone out there is proving that common sense is not as common as we hoped. You guys, seriously. And that, my friends, is why we have the Bless Your Heart segment. Don't hate. It's good. Growing up Southern adjacent, I learned real quick that bless your heart is not always a compliment. Sometimes it's the nicest way to say, baby, you are struggling. And sometimes it's the only way to process the foolishness people bring into our lives without flipping a table or catching a charge. Listen, if there's one thing I've learned from both childhood and adulthood, it's this. People will test your patience in ways you trained for years. Yeah. They'll misunderstand you. They'll underestimate you, talk sideways at you. And sometimes, bless it, they'll try to control things that do not belong to them. If you've ever dealt with someone like that, someone who acts like your life needs their signature approval, someone who thinks your choices are their playground, or someone who forgets that you survived too much to be micromanaged, then today's Bless Your Heart letter is going to speak directly to your spirit. Because let me tell you this. There's a difference between offering help and hijacking someone's lane. Okay. There's a difference between support and steering. And there is a very big, very bright, very non-negotiable line between caring about someone and trying to control them. Okay. So today, as we open this Bless Your Heart letter, I want you to sit back, grab your coffee, and remember, we don't judge folks here. Nuh-uh. That's not us. We don't shame them. We don't drag them. We just bless their sweet little hearts for trying. Because sometimes the only way to stay sane, stay centered, stay in your peace is to acknowledge the foolishness and, just keep on walking. All right, y'all, let's get into this letter. Now then, dear B, I need to ask you something before I lose my mind. Why do you always start these letters with that kind of line, people? Sorry. If it's not that, then I never thought I would write in. Okay. I need to ask you something before I lose my mind. I'm a grown woman, 52 years old, raised kids, built a career, lived a whole life, and somehow I'm still dealing with people who think they get to tell me how to run mine. I've got a friend, someone I supported for years, and lately he's been acting like he owns the rights to my decisions. Every time I start something new, he's right there trying to advise me, but it doesn't feel like advice. It feels like control. It feels like he's steering. Pardon me. I'd be sneering. Yeah. It feels like he's rewriting my plans mid-sentence. Oh, I hate that. I don't want to fight. I don't want to lose friendship. But I'm starting to feel small around him, and I worked too damn hard to become the woman I am now. The other day, he told me who I should be talking to, but I've never been so stunned. I don't know if I'm being too sensitive or if this is what it looks like when someone outgrows a dynamic that used to work. There's a question. I keep asking myself, am I overreacting, or am I finally seeing this thing clearly? I don't want to explode. I don't want to burn bridges, but I also don't want to silence myself just to keep the peace. Sorry, this is only the second time I've read this one. I did that for too many years already. So here's my question, B. How do I set boundaries with someone I care about without losing my voice in the process? And how do I know if it's time to walk away or just time to speak up? Signed, trying not to shrink. Well, first off, you better not shrink. No. That's what we don't do here. That's what we don't do here. Okay? Stand up, honey. Come on in here with me for a little while because we're going to talk about this, because there is nothing wrong with your eyes, your instincts, your boundaries. There's not. You're not overreacting. You're finally reacting appropriately to something that's been sitting wrong in your spirit for a long time now. And the fact that you're questioning yourself tells me you've spent years being the peacemaker, right? The fixer. The one who keeps everything running smooth so nobody falls apart. Women like us don't ask, am I overreacting? Unless we've been taught to swallow our truth, right? So, what you're describing isn't friendship. It's a shifting power dynamic. And baby, it happens the moment a woman starts coming into her own. When you're quieter, smaller, easier to manage, it's fine. But the moment you stepped into a space that you created, something born from your talent, your vision, your sweat, his energy shifted. Why? Because some people are comfortable with your growth until your growth outpaces their control. And then suddenly they're concerned or advising or redirecting. But it's not about helping you. It's about keeping you within reach. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Control never announces itself. It doesn't walk in the room wearing a sign. It slides in as guidance, as opinion, as suggestion, as I'm just looking out for you. It disguises itself as support. It uses the history of the friendship as leverage. But the second you start feeling small around someone, that's when the truth walks in. Because real support never shrinks you. Okay, real friendship never rearranges your vision. And real care, it never makes you doubt your own voice. And I want you to hear this next part with your whole heart. Okay? You are not responsible for managing someone else's insecurities. You are not responsible for downplaying your talent so somebody else feels control. You are not responsible for making your success comfortable for anyone but yourself. You can love someone deeply and still draw a line right in the sand and say, this part, this lane, this dream, this one's mine. You asked how to set boundaries without losing your voice. Baby, boundaries are your voice, okay? Boundaries are what you say when your words have been ignored. Boundaries are what you build when your heart has been pulled in every direction but your own. Boundaries are how you teach people how to treat you and how to remind yourself that you're allowed to take up space. So let's talk about what that looks like in practice. You don't have to fight. You don't have to fight. You don't have to explode. You don't need a dramatic exit. You simply need clarity. And you can say it this way. I appreciate your input, but this is something I need to run my way. And then you hold that line quietly, calmly, consistently. If there's respect, there'll be adjustment. If not, well, then that wasn't support. So let me tell you this too, okay? When a woman finally stops shrinking, it exposes every relationship that was built on her silence. The minute you step into your authority, some people feel threatened because they were never cheering for your power. They were cheering for your usefulness. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when it's someone you've supported, encouraged, and believed in. Yeah. But let me lighten this up for a moment. Women like us, we come from childhoods where the adults were unpredictable, dramatic, and loud and confusing. We learned early to read the room, anticipate needs, smooth edges, and keep peace. That's my superpower too. That's why this hits so deep, because it feels familiar. It feels like a grown-up version of that old dynamic where you were responsible for managing someone else's emotions, but you're not that child anymore. You don't owe that level of accommodation to anyone, ever. Here's my answer, sweetheart. Plain and simple. You don't have to walk away, but you do have to stand up. You don't fix this by shrinking, okay? You fix it by reclaiming your seat at your own table. Plain and simple. Boundaries don't ruin relationships. They reveal them. Okay. And once you set this lane, you'll learn real fast whether this friendship was built on mutual respect or mutual convenience. Listen to me carefully now. Okay. Do not silence yourself again just to keep peace. Peace purchased with your silence is not peace. It's a prison. And you've already served that sentence in your past. You don't owe it to anyone else. And you don't owe it another day. Bless your heart for trying to keep everything together. Seriously. But baby, it's time to keep yourself together first. Okay? Yeah, that was supposed to be a funny one, but you know what? I don't feel funny today. And I need you to know, you got to stand up. Nothing makes me more angry than somebody that does not stand up or that sits back quietly, because that's not going to get you anywhere. That's why I'm here. Because being quiet and sitting in the corner in the dark was getting me nowhere. That's why I'm here now. That's why I'm giving everything I've got. And yes, to myself, but to others too. Because that's who I was taught to be, or who I taught myself to be. Because at 10 years old, you're raising yourself at that point. If that's, the case, a toaster. But this right here, All right, look, we're going to get into the gravel road. I may have to go do a little woo-saw after this whole episode, because it's put me in one of those moods. So let's, yeah. All right. If bless your heart is where we call out the foolishness, gravel road is where we call out the truth. This is the part of the show where we move past the noise, past the attitude, past the exterior, and sit with the stuff we don't always talk about. The gravel road is bumpy, uneven, and it'll remind you real fast what you're made of. And every single one of us were dragged down it. Some of us had to rebuild ourselves right on the rocks. But the gravel road is where the growing It happens. You're going to grow up here. It's where the lessons are lived. It's where breakthroughs came from. And it's where we learned that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it does whisper. And that's okay. When someone writes in to the gravel road, they're not trying to be funny. They're not looking for a quick fix or a cute answer. They're bringing the part of their heart they don't show the world. And it's an honor every single time. I just want to say that. Excuse me. So if you're listening right now and something in your spirit is already stirring, I know mine is, just know you're not alone. Today's Gravel Road letter. It's deep. It's raw. It's one of those letters that might make you nod your head before you even hear the end of it. Let's go ahead and open it. Yeah, I'm just, that one, I'm lost on that last one. I am. Dear B, I never thought I'd be writing into a show like yours, but here I am because I'm walking a gravel road I don't know how to navigate anymore. I'm a grown woman in my 50s, and I thought by now I would have figured out my own heart. But the truth is, I'm lost. Not in the world. I can handle bills, work, family responsibilities. I'm lost inside myself. Things I used to tolerate don't sit right anymore. People I used to depend on feel different now. I'm waking up with this strange ache in my chest, like a part of me is trying to come back to life after years of being quiet. And I don't know if that's healing or if it's grief. Some days I feel strong. Other days I feel like a stranger in my own life. I look around at the people I have given everything to. Family, friends, partners, and I can't tell if they love me for who I am or for the version of me that never asked for anything. I've spent so many years being the fixer, the calm one, the one that's always strong. I don't know how to tell them that inside I'm tired. I got you, babe. I understand. And here's the part I'm scared to say out loud. I don't know who I am without the roles I've played for everybody else. If I stop being the helper, the rescuer, the emotional glue, what's left? Who's left? What if they don't stay? What if the only reason they loved me was because I never needed anything back? I want to grow. I want to heal. I want to find the woman I was supposed to become before life steered me everywhere else. But B, I don't know how to start that journey when I'm scared people will leave if I stop holding them up. I'm sorry, that last sentence is hard for me to read out loud. I don't know how to start that journey when I'm scared people will leave if I stop holding them up. Sign standing at my own crossroads. All right, sweetheart. You didn't write me a letter about being lost. You wrote me a letter. I don't know why that keeps happening. My internet is fine. Okay, you're not unraveling. You are remembering yourself, and that is the most painful, powerful road a woman will ever walk. Okay? You spent years, maybe decades, being the reliable one, the steady one, the one who holds the emotional temperature in the room, the one who says, it's fine, I'll handle it, the one who bends so other people don't break. And here's the truth nobody says out loud. When you live that way long enough, you disappear into the background of your own life. You become a foundation everybody stands on, and the last person anyone thinks to check on. Yeah. So now that you're feeling this shift inside, this deep, heavy tug, right? That's not confusion, baby girl. That is your spirit knocking on the door saying, baby, I am still here. You promised you'd come back for me. That ache in your chest, that's the part of you that got buried under responsibility and expectation, obligation, caretaking, emotional labor that was never once returned. You're not losing yourself. You're meeting yourself, maybe for the first time. And I want you to hear this. Outgrowing roles, okay, you were forced into is not betrayal. It's liberation. You're allowed to stop carrying what exhausts you. And you're allowed to put down every version of you that was built for someone else's comfort. You are allowed to say, I am tired without feeling like you failed. I don't have an opinion on that, but thank you anyway. Now, you are allowed to put down every version of you that was built for someone else's comfort. You're allowed to say, I'm tired without feeling like you failed. Look, the truth is, baby, you didn't fail anything. You held up entire worlds. You kept people together who would have fallen apart without you. You kept homes running, friendships stitched, families afloat. You become the emotional glue, and nobody ever asked if the glue was cracking. Hey there, Kinamaro. I don't have an opinion on coffee enemas, and I'm glad you find that funny. Thank you for your support. You know, every comment, that's support, whether it's good or bad. Thanks. So, of course, you feel lost when you've lived your whole life for other people. Stepping into your own needs feels like standing in a foreign country without a map. But that isn't weakness. That's transition. Okay? That's the moment when a woman stops surviving and starts becoming. Yeah. You asked who you are without the roles you've played. Let me answer that clearly. You are a woman with a name, okay? Not just a function. You are a woman with a heart, not just a skill set. You are a woman with desires, dreams, boundaries, intuition, and identity. Even if they were pushed into the background for years because life demanded your sacrifice. Okay? And the fear that people won't stay if you stop caring for them, that fear is real. But here's the hard truth. If someone only stays because you ask for nothing, their love was conditional from the start. You are not responsible for protecting relationships built on your silence. You are not required to shrink just to keep people comfortable. And you are certainly not obligated to keep playing the role of emotional caretaker when your soul is begging for, well, to be reciprocated. That's a good word. Reciprocation. Nobody does that anymore. You know what? Y'all people, you need to do that more. Okay? Look, standing at a crossroads doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're choosing. Okay? It means you're finally looking at the road that leads back to you. And sweetheart, that is sacred ground. And yeah, it's scary. It's lonely. It feels like stepping out of your own skin, but it's also where freedom begins. It is. You don't have to blow up your life to reclaim it. You just need one brave movement at a time. One honest boundary. Just one. One small act of self-respect. One whisper of, I matter too. That is how healing begins, not in grand gestures, okay, but in tiny rebellions against the version of you that was never allowed to need anything. So hear me when I say this. You are not losing your way. You are finding your voice. You are not disappointing anybody. You are finally telling the truth. And the woman that you are becoming, the one who honors herself, the one who listens inward, the one who stands firm, she is worth every single step of this gravel road. And you know it. This is not the end of your story, honey. This is the chapter where you become the author. Plain and simple. All right. Now, that was full. Ladies, we've got to learn that we have strength. Yes, men are strong physically, but come on. Why do you think God let us have the kids, right? Okay. My point is, I'm not a feminist or I'm not man bashing. Okay. That's not the thing here either. What I'm saying is people do this, not men or women. I'm saying people make you shrink and you shouldn't. Don't do that. Don't do that. You know your worth. So walk with your head held high. Believe in yourself, because you know what? That's the only person that matters that believes in you. It's the only person that matters is you. You can't be for anybody else if you can't be that for you. Okay? I think we've said that plenty of times on this here show. Yeah, that was my Texas coming out. All right, y'all. Before we head out, though, I'm going to take just a moment to remind you how to stay connected with this show and this community, because everything we build here, we build together. Ask a Bee isn't just a live stream. It's a space where real people bring real stories. And somehow we all walk out a little stronger. Maybe. I hope. So if today's episode hit home for you, if something stirred in your spirit, if something you made you laugh or nod or breathe deep, whatever. Or if you want to talk about coffee enemas, for real, dude. Anyway, that's crazy for me. So if today's episode hit home for you, if, it stirred something in your spirit, and just go ahead and share the show, would you? With someone who might need it. You never know who's sitting on their own gravel road right now, trying to figure out their next step. If you want to send in your own letters, you see it going across. We got all kinds of shows for you to send your letters to. We had the Ladies' Diary last night, yet another wonderful episode. I loved it. My panelists are the best, and Mama Lions is even better. I love my girl. So if you want to send in your own letter, please, the email's down there in the ticker. Give me an email. I am BBTV. My name is Charlene. We all know that, but I am Boss B. That's who I am here. So, stick around, stay plugged in. Let's keep doing what we came here to do, and build and laugh and heal and tell the truth, even when it shakes the walls a little. Okay. And okay, so as we wrap up this one, I just want to take another moment to acknowledge the weight of what we walked through together. Throwback Thursday isn't always easy. I know y'all probably figured I was going to throw up some old pictures or something like that, but that's not my point here. It's just not. If you want to see that, the video's in my list. But Throwback Thursday isn't always easy, because when we look back, we don't just see the moments that made us laugh. We see the moments that shaped us. The ones that toughened our skin and softened our hearts. The ones that hurt, but, they also healed. And if today stirred something in you, let that be a reminder that your story isn't over. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to step into the woman you were always supposed to be, or man, of course. I'm not being a feminist. Let me say that again. You do not have to apologize for that to anyone. Okay? Man or woman. Cat, dog, whatever you want to be. I hope you leave here today, though, feeling lighter, clearer, and maybe just a little bit braver, because life will keep handing you crossroads. And every time you choose yourself, you rewrite your future just a little bit more. So thank you for spending your time with me today, for showing up, for listening, for being open. And these moments matter. You matter. And every week we get to walk a little bit lighter, I think, and be a little bit more grateful, because I am grateful for what I have here and the people that I have with me. And you guys, oh, I have to tell you this before I go. I have to. I can't help it. I am Boss B. I worked relentlessly and rebuilt this channel from the ground up. We are past 6,000 subscribers, guys. And I checked it this morning. 995,000 views. We are almost to 1 million, y'all. Come on. I'm so very grateful for all of you. As you might know or not, I have earned back full monetization, open memberships. Come on. You want to join. And now I'm plotting my viral comeback. Yes, I am. This is my resurgent, my season, and my momentum. And nothing is stopping me now. I love you guys. Y'all take care. I'll see you next time. How you like that?